I am excited to introduce Alex Beavis. Alex helps men over 40 get in shape and stay in shape and has been working on this for some years. He's built a very impressive community and he's also just released a fantastic best-selling new book, Realistic and Sustainable. Um, and so I'm excited to unpack this today because this has been a long time in the making, although a short time-ish in production. And Alex is going to share some of his sort of business building magic as well as maybe some fitness tips as well. Alex, thank you for joining me. How's it going?
Yeah, nice. Yourself?
Very good. Thank you very much. And it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks since your book came out.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty much, yeah, this week will be 3 weeks, I think. Yeah.
3 weeks, very good. And it's fair to say it's gone out there with a bang, hasn't it? It was bestseller within a few hours. Done well for
Yeah.
book sales.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I didn't know what to expect. It was a lovely notion to think that it would go so well. But my social media has had people messaging in pictures of them with their book, and
Amazing.
people obviously within the first 24 hours had read it, which just surprised me that people would actually buy it and actually read it, let alone go to number one. So yeah, it's been nice.
Let's pick up on that because that's interesting. I think that that's probably a question mark every author ever has had in their minds, which is like, is anyone going to read this? And it's like your, life's work. It's your passion. It's what you do every day. You're devoted to it. You're an expert in this space. You know that people have an appetite for it because you've got a business around it, but it still is that niggling concern, isn't there? But with that said, what you do is very clear and very niche. And do you think that really knowing who you are and who you are as a leader to your community has sort of helped with creating something actually very targeted?
I think for me, being my own niche is quite powerful. Not just within the book sale, but just in people being attracted to me and to the business and to the service that I offer is quite important. The fact that, well, I mean, look, the book's called Realistic and Sustainable. So, number one, I'm not aware of someone else in the fitness industry that's just saying that it's all right to have a Chinese takeaway and a Mars bar. But I think the fact that I am my own audience's age bracket, they look at the white hair here and there, and they look at the wisdom slash life experience that makes it quite attractive for them to connect with me, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that that's something that I see when I'm working with entrepreneurs who want to write that book that's really going to help them to stand out and really help people. But behind every book, there are usually a variety of goals, but broadly speaking, they fall into impact on the right group of people and financial to the business because it's an asset, it's a knowledge product. But usually, then the quite logical instinct is to try and cater for all of the different people that could be in their client base or in their community. Whereas actually, what you've done so well is you've isolated your ideal client, you know exactly who you work best with and who you represent as well. And you've kind of just gone straight there, which I think is helpful. With that said, you've got a large online community as well, which must be made up of a variety of different people with different issues and goals, right? I did a little bit of homework. 32,000 followers on Facebook. You've got 196,000 on Instagram. You've got over 9,000 on YouTube. This is a really, really impressive online community. Can you tell us a little bit more about building that, what it means to you? And
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I kind of think I was a bit late to the party when Facebook became a thing.
yeah,
I don't know if you remember this, but back in the days, it was called Friends Reunited, right? So anyone that's kind of, I don't know, that kind of look to me says, oh, I don't know if I'm really that old, Alex, but um,
well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
yeah, it's backhanded, isn't it? But yeah, look, that's kind of where it was. And then when Facebook became a thing, I was a bit naive to the whole internet thing. When I first kind of got into this back in like 1998, the internet wasn't a thing. We didn't hear that kind of kind of thing going off on the computer and stuff. It wasn't a thing. So I think I was a bit late to the whole kind of thing, to the whole kind of Facebook thing. And I've got a Facebook profile, which is kind of where it all started. And for me, when the Facebook thing did kind of get started by me, I was, working in a gym, and then I would leave that gym and I'd go off and work somewhere else, and life would kind of change. So my Facebook became kind of populated by different pockets of people that I was working with, or friends, or family. And it was only really when I thought, do you know what? This Facebook thing might become popular, actually, that maybe I should get some help. So fast forward much later, I got in my first social media manager, and where I used to have just my own personal profile, which is what you're talking about there, I've got 5,000 friends and 32,000 followers. I then got my first professional business page, which has now got just on Facebook 247,000 followers just on that. So I've got my personal profile, and then I've got my business page, which is all about what I do for a living. And obviously, as soon as that started to grow, I thought, well, surely something similar would happen on Instagram, right? So Instagram happened. That's touching on about 200,000. And then I thought, well, would any of my niche kind of use TikTok? I mean, I thought TikTok was for 13-year-olds, but it turns out it's not. And that is, again, pushing up to about 200,000. YouTube is, again, something that I've only really recently, and when I say recently, I mean, I'm attending this call now on about 45 minutes sleep, because I go into the gym in the middle of the night and film this long form content, content that's like 1-2 hours long of me in the gym doing exercises and all the rest of it, which is why 9,000 sounds like a lot. But when you compare it to Facebook in its own right, that's, touching on 250,000, it really isn't much at all. But one thing that I kind of realized is that all of those years that I was what we call in the industry a gen pop coach, a general population coach, someone that tries to serve everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All the time that I was coaching, 17-year-old boys that wanted to be a bodybuilder and live out of Tupperware 8 times a day, and also your 75, 85-year-old women that have got hip replacement and asthma, I could never be a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the moment that my wife and I, we decided that actually there's a part of the market that isn't really being served, which was men in their 40s, 50s, 60s that have got 3 stone or more to lose. And that's when we went all in. And it was at that point that all of my social media stuff started, I call it, to really sniper in specifically on those people. So every single post, every video, every story is totally refined, and then refined down even more to talk to the matters of the heart to those people. And that's where, yeah, we started to get quite a loyal sort of following community, if you like. Hence, when the book was released and we said, hey, look, it's there, because it was priced right, obviously with your help, it rather surprisingly flew off the shelf.
Unsurprisingly, you've laid all the groundwork. So you were you've always just been really focused. Thanks for sharing that as well, because it's kind of like we think of marketing as a funnel with the kind of the wider bit at the top and the kind of bottom of the funnel going into sales at the bottom. But really, if you turn that on its head, what you've got there is a value ladder. And so you've got your kind of wide pool there, which is, anybody can find you online. You've got your communities, you've got your content, even though it's really focused, probably there's something for a lot of different people in it if they come across
Mm.
it. But then I guess it allows people to disqualify, doesn't it, themselves without you having to spend an awful long time in the sales process doing that with people. I'll come back to that in a minute, but I just want to kind of zoom into the book here because it's really impressive what it's done. I'm not going to share any numbers on your behalf, but feel free to if you want to, just with what you've achieved in the first 3 weeks. Um, but you did say something interesting we had a catch up last week, and you said, I wrote it down at the time, um, getting a call from one of the team about doing the book was the kind of practical trigger to, okay, it's time to do this now. But actually, it's been in the works, it's been in your mind for at least a year and a half, probably a lot longer. Can you tell me a bit more about the idea forming and why a book? Why put all of this in a book?
Yeah, so I talk to my clients all the time, And you know what? I've just literally got off of a call. We run 5 different training calls a week for our community online, and the one that we run on today was mindset, motivation, and mental health. And these guys, they come to this call just like they do all these other ones, and we give them specific help on specific subjects. Anyway, on today's call, there was something that I said that I could see the faces on the people that were on the call that were like, "Oh shit, yeah, this is real." I think there becomes a time for everybody, male, female, where this is going to almost sound like I'm turning this call into something quite morbid, right? But it's not.
Go for it.
Which is, we become very aware of our own mortality,
Yeah.
right? And I think for a lot of men, it's usually around 40, 50 years old, where all of a sudden we start to see that some of the friends we grew up with became ill and died, or a friend that you knew, their marriage broke up and the kids no longer speak to them, and all of these kind of things. And we start seeing that in real time, and maybe there's even things in for ourselves, like for me, I got ill a few years ago, which meant I changed direction with how I used to train as an athlete. And for me, there was something that I wanted to do. And for me, it was to write a book. People used to say to me all the time, "Blimey, Alex, in all the years that you've done this, you've got so many funny stories to tell, whether it's someone falling off a treadmill or whether it's someone actually achieving like a proper life transformation that's just opened up a completely what we would perceive to be an impossible life." I wouldn't say I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot. And it's been said to me probably after I kind of ticked over sort of 7 or 8 years in the industry as a coach, which is a long time for people in the industry. I think the typical lifespan of, not lifespan, but employment lifespan, if you like, of a personal trainer is between about a year and 3 years. Right? That's how long most people tend to be in the industry for. So for me being in it for 29, there's a lot of experiences that have gone in there. So yeah, it only took a couple more comments to say, "Oh, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it," as well as this kind of point that I talk to my clients about. "Well, do you know what? You said you wanted to do this. Go and do this. If you said you wanted to do that, let's piece together an action plan that's going to guarantee it happens." And it just so happened that I was researching stuff online. You came up. I got in contact, and your entire process, from the first person that just rung me for a chat right through to the finished product, was just impeccable. And there you have it. The rest is kind of history.
Well, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. But you know what? With 29, with 29 years experience, it's kind of like everything's really just there, isn't it? I think half the battle won with producing a book is getting it out of your head and onto paper in some kind of order rather than chaos. But you smashed it.
Well, do you know what? You're right. You've hit some time frames there, pretty much on the head. I started trying to just get stuff out of my head and onto paper about 2 years before I got in touch with you.
Yeah.
And every time I took my daughter to a horse riding lesson or a swimming lesson, my laptop would come in its special little outing bag, and I'd open it up and I'd enjoy typing and getting this stuff out of my head. But when I looked at the stuff on paper, I was like, where is the flipping, like, how does this even all come together? Like, if I was writing a kid's book, for example, you'd have the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you'd decide how these characters are gonna, write a bit of some information on the characters and all the rest of it, and you can kind of start to piece things together. Logically, in my head, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're writing something like this, when it's just loads of these, in my head, it's kind of like this highlight reel that goes off all the time.
Yeah.
Where the hell do you start? So yeah, thankfully, when I met you, I really need to just go over to all of these kind of individual Word documents that I've opened up. Book ideas, August 21, book ideas here, there. I could just go through and just select all, delete, because it's done now, and it happened in a much, more organized fashion than what Alex and his clever little idea was, sitting in a swimming pool, waiting room, stinking of chlorine and sweating one out because they're always about 30 degrees. So yeah.
Classic author journey, I think, isn't it? I think they're getting started, like, it's a big hang up, really. So I think at least you kind of got some stuff out there. I'll tell you what though, let's just go to the content itself because whenever I'm working with authors, I always say, look, you need to focus on timeless principles as well as or instead of just the here and now stuff. Um, and of course, realistic and sustainable, that's very much in keeping with how you work anyway in your world of fitness. How did you decide what to put in here? What was kind of helpful about the way you were able to approach putting the book together? Because actually, with all of that experience, like you say, comes even more noise. Like what did you want to share and what did you decide on?
Do you know what I wanted to share is in my industry, as I'm sure you and anyone listening back to this can appreciate, how many people do you know that lost weight and then gained it back again? Right? Everybody knows someone. If it isn't yourself, and if it isn't just once, it's how many times have you gone around that kind of, gone and lost that same half stone over and over and over. And every year that passes, the amount of people that message us in social media or email us and they're telling us the same story. Oh, when I was this age, I achieved this, this, and this. And it's all these people kind of living in the past, telling me all about the past and how many different things they've tried and all the rest of it. And for me, you get to 2025, which for anyone listening back into the future, we're having this conversation in August 2025. The book's been released 3 weeks. Mental health is a real thing. Like, it's proper real. However you want to talk about massive depression or, the complete other end of the scale, how we think, how we feel, how we operate, how we behave affects our actions and it affects other people. And when you keep hearing after 29 years, similar stories and real drastic stories, someone needs to say, do you know what? When are we going to realize that everything that everyone's doing is, I'm being very tactful, trying not to use swear words right now because I don't know who I'm going to offend, but we have to just kind of recognize that what it is we've tried so far, quite frankly, may have worked in the short term in that moment, but it didn't work in the long term because the process wasn't realistic. It therefore wasn't sustainable. And if it was, you wouldn't be in this problem right now. Right. So no one was talking about it. I'm sure they are, but I'm certainly the only person with some kind of voice on social media that has got the power to actually be recognized. And I think that was something else that kind of led me to write the book. So I don't know if that's answered your question because I kind of went off on one there, but has that answered your question?
It has. Yeah, it has done. It has. Thank you. I'd love to just learn a little bit more about the business side of things, if that's all right as well. So you've got the community, you do loads and loads of content. I can't believe that you're joining me on 45 minutes of sleep. So I really appreciate that. But that's dedication as well, right? And maybe, when we see channels as good as yours and content as polished as yours and someone as confident on camera as you and that kind of thing, you think, oh, well, maybe it comes natural to that person, but not to me, for example. But actually, you work at it. This content is, it's hours upon hours. It's lost sleep. It's lost family time. Can you tell us a little bit more about just some of the discipline, the dedication, the sacrifice, that kind of mindset?
First of all, let me just take you back to probably 6 years ago, probably maybe even longer than that, when I thought, do you know what? This social media is a thing now, and all of these people are talking to camera. Facebook has got this memories thing where it says to you, oh, this time last year you were doing this. And it also says, oh, this time 11 years ago you were doing that. And I always, every day, I make a point of looking back at that, right? Because something that I talk to my clients about, I talk to my staff about is you got to look at where you're winning, number one. You got to then look at what you're learning. And then with what you've learned, you've now got to address that and look at how you're going to move forwards into today, into tomorrow, moving forwards. So it's really easy for me to look back at that content that I knocked out 7 years ago and just be like, oh my Christ. Like, it's camera angles and thinking, do people really need to see my 18 chins that I've got right now? And I never even considered, sound, microphones and all the rest of it. So I think people, just like with what I deliver to my customers, people have got this idea that things are going to be perfect, and they're not. And every video that I knock out right now, trust me, I do not look at that and go, yeah, perfect, you star, you should be in Hollywood. I don't think like that, and it's not like that. But we have to kind of get out of our own head thinking that the quality and the of my video is going to be judged by the people. It certainly will be in terms of their viewing time, but they're not looking at it going, oh, funny camera angle, cool, could have worked on your lighting a bit there. So it's just kind of getting out of that. One thing that I did do with my content, and I learned this from someone years ago, is to grab your phone, record yourself, chat, 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 and then stop, put your phone screen down and play it back and ask yourself, do I actually sound even remotely interesting? Is my voice boring? Am I talking up and down? Is it exciting? And then again, to pick it up, turn the volume off and then watch it back and ask yourself, does this even look interesting? So when I learned that, it really quickly got me thinking about how people use social media. And I then spent my first £89.75 on a microphone, because I realised that the sound on back then, what my iPhone 10 or whatever it was, just really didn't do it any justice. And at the time, I was petrified of spending that much money on something because that money wasn't really coming in when I first opened the business. And it started to change things overnight. The quality started to improve. When little things started to improve, I then started to improve by default. My whole attitude to the whole process just started to be more positive and better. And I started to pick out the things I was proud of, i.e. where I was winning. I started to look at what I'm learning from every video. Oh, the sunlight there looks nice, or I shouldn't say this word because someone messaged me and they got offended and all the rest of it. And I learned from that, and then I moved forwards. And every single time I shoot a video, it just gets better and better and better and quicker and quicker and quicker. And yeah, at the minute we pump out 35 short videos a week across every platform. So that's on 2 profiles on Facebook, 2 profiles on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So do the maths of how many videos that is. So and I also think it's about having a very clear message and really having that niche. So when I make a video about a given subject, bear in mind it's only 60 to 120 seconds really, I usually either have a very passionate thing I want to talk about, or I'm actually talking to an individual. I'm talking to someone in the past of something maybe I wish I'd said to them before, or I'm talking to a client or a customer about their actions and and where it's leading them, or if they were to do this and this, how it can come across, which is why certainly over the years I get a lot of compliments come through. Oh, blimey, Alex, it sounds like you're talking directly to me. And it was like, well, because I was, because you are a carbon copy of Joe Bloggs that was 52, that was living life out of Tesco's meal deals and Costa coffees and cans of energy drink and takeaways. So that person, that they have like their doppelgangers, if you like, throughout society. So it is talking directly to them. So again, you have to slow me down a little bit because I get pretty passionate about this, and I'll probably end up answering 20 questions in one go.
So I'm making notes actually. I'm going to pick up, yeah, I'm going to pick up on some threads. You go for
But
it.
have I even answered your question there?
Yeah, you have. Thank you.